guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have The Last Housewife, a novel by Ashley Winstead. So, this is an author of In My Dream and Hold a Knife. This is a book I got from Unplugged, I believe, as well. This is the cover. Yes, and from Unplugged. So we have an author letter and a signature. Then, the cover is blue with a silver spine. So, while in college in New York, Shay Evans and her best friends met a captivating man who seduced them with a web of lies about the way the world works, bringing them under his thrall. But in a year, Shay and her friend Laurel was the only ones who managed to escape. Now, 8 years later, Shay builds a new life in the Tony, Texas suburb. But when she horrifies the news of Laurel's death, delivered all the way from her favourite true crime podcast, Crusaders, she begins to suspect that the past she thought is buried is very much alive, and the predators are more dangerous than ever. Recruiting the help of the podcast host, Shay goes back to the place she vowed she never returned for search for answers. As she follows the thread of her friend's life, she falls into the dark, seductive world where wealth and privileges shield brutal philosopher's stones that feel all too familiar. When Shay's obsessions with uncovering the truth becomes so confusing, consuming that she can no longer separate her desire from justice from darker desire reawakened. She must confront the depths of her own complicity and conditioning, but in the world built for men to rule it, both inside the cult and outside of it, is justice even possible? And so, how far is Shay willing to go? Now. So, it didn't take long for me to get hooked by this book. I was quite interested by the book and how it was produced. I love a good mystery book as well. So the reader first comes to the quote about women deserving to hold on to their own anger. Next comes a content warning as well. You've got petitions, a caution that signs of physical and sexual violence. There is drug use, trauma and self-harm among other things as well. However, the author doesn't leave there forbidding to draw you into the story. Literally, the synopsis is the one that got me into the story. So the novel follows Shay, a married magazine columnist who quits her job to focus on her novel. She listens to a true crime podcast hosted by Jamie, an old high school friend, and this is how she learns that one of her college roommates, Laurel, died. The host theorizes that the suicide may have been staged to conceal a murder, and Shay immediately flies from her safe Dallas home to New York to solve the mystery. Shay reunites with Jamie and together they pursue their suspicions. As Shay gets closer to finding the truth, we learn about Shay's dark past. While they were in college, Shay and Laurel and 2 other roommates were manipulated, I can't say the word, I'm sorry, by a man named Don, who created a cult of physical, emotion and mental domination. Don demanded they behave according to the traditional gender roles, and when they disobeyed, his punishment escalated from depriving them of his intention to more physical methods. Shay and Laurel managed to escape, and one of the others died under the circumstances similar to Laurel's. Shay recalls the efforts of Don's power over her and realises that out of her desire to please him, she is willing to participate in the events leading to those deaths. In search of Laurel's killer, Shay discovers something larger and more sinister. At the time, the reader wonders about her motives. Is she trying to right an old wrong, or she hungers to submit to the cult leader again? If no, it was 8 years ago. Shay hasn't shaken off Don's hold on her. As she descends back into those depths, she encounters a different man with eerie, familiar habits. He clutched my necklace tighter, knotting it tight against my throat. I gasped as the way, and I can tell you're a proud one, he whispered. I jerked, but he held tight. I dropped my head back, letting it hit the wall, struggling to push away the memory. But it was no use. There was what I feared the most, an addiction, the waking. So now she's slowly remembering what happened to her. The balance of power between men and women is an important theme in this story, where she was under Don's control and Shay learned the extremes of what is meant. Don enforced submissive by withholding food, affection, freedom until he was more subtitled, basically. Shay's husband Cal is also an expert or form of dominance. When she quit her job, Cal insisted that his money was their money, but he checks her credit card purchases while he's aware of businesses. He texts her on commentary on her choices. Although Cal refuses to acknowledge it, she senses he's using their financials to keep her under control. Now back among like brutal the whole thing, Shay resolves never to let anyone else control her ever again. Shay's first person account is a focus on her text, but Winstead obviously delegates the whole storytelling to support the cast in the form of flashbacks and transcripts from Jamie's interviews. So this interlude helps in like illustrate the environment from these women from different side of their stories. And one more of memorable personalities is Nicole, a streetwise and woman submissive in a society. When Shay implores her to leave her, Nicole refuses to say, "Look at me in this Gucci dress. These bruises, these are Gucci bruises. It's the viewpoint option. Trust me, all these other options are this, but worse." These characters help the readers explore and understand the complexity of this kind of majestic world that people will come to. So overall, this affects that enhanced tension that depict Shay's predicament increases the credibility and the pace of the story. So this was like a huge plunge down the world where I did not expect any of this from this situation, and it did make me like feel like I wanted to read more to find out what was going to happen. I slowly was like, oh my god, feel like I was going to cry almost, because I was like, oh my god, what's going on? Because I wanted to read out more, but it was an interesting book to read. And it was like, oh, okay, fair enough, let's go. But that is everything for this book. I literally cannot wait to see what this author does bring out as well, and I might get a hold of their other books as well, because I'm intrigued even more now. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace, bye.